Hello everyone, this is Ahmed Al Aziz speaking to you again. In this video, we are going to discuss the three ways to store the energy from the solar system or from the sun on the earth. So stay tuned, we will start in a moment. So let's start with the off-grid solar system and the first way of storing the sun energy or the solar energy on the earth. So the solar system is consist of several components, and one of the main component for the solar system is the solar panels, which is called PV panels. And the photovoltaic panels means photon voltaic panels. And what we mean by the photons are the object which is generated by the sun radiation. So these photons, they are objects, and those objects, they have travel speed and they have also energy. So the solar panels, they are made of semiconductor material such as the doped silicon, and the semiconductor material normally will have a positive and negative charge of electrons. So when these photons travels from long distance and hit the surface of the solar panels, then the electrons inside these semiconductors will move and will generate the power or the currents. So that current is DC current. It's direct current. It's not AC alternating current. So the amount of power being generated on the solar panel being transferred to charge controller, and that charge controller will control the amount of power going to the battery. So in the solar system, which is off a grid, the power is being generated by the solar panel, and that solar panel will create DC current, and that DC current will go to the batteries, and that batteries will store this power now. So now this DC current, to use it at home and to operate some loads, we need to change it to AC current. That's why we use something called inverter. So the purpose of the inverter is to convert the DC current into AC current. Then that current will be used at your home for the electricity loads such as the washing machine, the refrigerators, and the electricity in general. So in the off-grid system, we also can use another generator which can be operated on fuel, and that will work as an option when you don't have the sun radiations and the photons available at the daylight, and you can use these at the day night. So what does the off-grid mean? Means that an independent system is not connected to the traditional grid, and you are not using the electricity power generated by the government or by the utility company. Now, what are the advantages of this system? So first one, it's the independency of this system. So you can have your own system. You are not going to pay money for the electricity. So you can have your own system and you can generate your electricity and you can store your electricity in a batteries. Then the second advantage of this system, it's customizable. So you can build system which you can use to operate a factory, or you can build system to operate a small motor or small generator. Maybe you can build system to operate motor to pump water from one location to another. The disadvantages of this system, it is limited energy storage. So you do have batteries in this system, but that battery is limited. So the moment you fill your batteries, you don't have any additional location to store this electricity. The second disadvantage of the system, that batteries, they are very expensive when you buy them, and they are expensive for the maintenance as well. The third disadvantage of this system is that there will be power loss. So what do we mean by the power loss? So when this system is created or built, the solar panel sizing and strengths are calculated based on the power I'm going to use when I operate my full load in the house or in the factory, and the power needed to be stored in the battery. So when I operate half load of the house, that means the solar system will generate power, will feed the batteries, and in this case, my battery will be full. However, the solar system will generate more power, which is not used by the full load. So if I'm using only half load, then that extra half load being generated by the solar panel will not be stored in the battery and will not be used in the load. So that's why we call it lost power. So now we come to the second way of storing the solar energy on the Earth, which is the on-grid solar system. So the on-grid solar system, we call it or we name it on-grid solar system because it is connected to the traditional grid. So what does the traditional grid mean? It's either the government network or the private company network. Normally, this is the electricity company. So this electricity company, they have their own network, and through that network, they're gonna go to provide you the service of electricity distribution. So you will be having the grid lines connected to your house and to your lot. So to give you this service, they're gonna go to put meter for you, and they're gonna go to calculate how much power you have used in order to operate your load. So at the end of the month, they're gonna go to come to you and say for you, hey, you have used 400 kilowatts, and for each kilowatt, you're gonna go to pay 1 dirham. So I need from you 400 dirhams end of the month. So now the on-grid system, it is a system connected to the grid. And in this case, I don't have batteries on this system. So what does it mean? That means you can store your generated electricity from your PV panels on the traditional grid. So question, how you can store that? We don't have batteries here. And this company, they don't have batteries to reserve it for you for your power. So what do you mean by storing your electricity on the grid? Okay, so to explain this properly, this grid is not only giving you the service alone. It's a traditional grid and providing these services to everyone. So if you have solar energy system, you're gonna go to use your solar energy for your load, and your extra generated power will go to the grid and will be provided to someone else who has no solar energy and he need the electricity from this company. So in this case, the company itself, they are getting benefited from that. Why? Because now they are having power from your system without being generated on their generator. So they don't need to pay fuel, they don't need to pay maintenance and so on. So they use your power, which is generated by your system, and they take it and they provide it to someone else need this service. So that is what do we mean by on-grid system. So how you can calculate the storage. So we have something called bidirectional meter. So that meter will calculate for you how much power you are storing on the grid and how much power you are taking from the grid. Now, how does this on-grid solar system is working? So we discussed in the previous one, we have the PV panel, and the PV is the abbreviation of the photovoltaic panels are generating the power from the sun radiation, which is able to move the electrons within these panels and create DC current. Now, these solar panels are connected together, and when we connect them together, we call them strings, and the power being generated on that system, it depends on how many strings we have and how those strings connected with each other, whether it's in series or it's in parallel. So now this is generating direct current, and that direct current will go to the inverter and will convert it from DC current, direct current, to alternate current. Then that current will go to a distribution board, and the distribution board will be like a circuit breaker. And then you will be having that electricity generated going to your home load or your factory load. Then you will be having the bidirectional meters, and that meter will calculate how much power you used from the grid and how much power you stored on the grid. So in this system, you are still able to use electricity from the grid when the solar panel system is not working. So what does it mean? On the daylight, you might run your load on the solar panel system because the sunlight is still there, so the system will generate electricity for you. However, on the day night, we don't have battery, so this system is off. Then you are taking from the grid. So now if you have generated on the daylight 2 kilowatts and you have used only 1 kilowatt and you stored on the grid system 1 kilowatt on the daylight, that stored 1 kilowatt on the grid system, you can use it on the day night. And this is how the on-grid system works on the second type. So now what are the advantages of this system? This system gives you the net metering, which is allowing you to store the electricity on the grid. Second thing, it's having less maintenance because you don't have batteries on this system. The disadvantages of this system, your system generated electricity will not be used if the grid system is shut down. And why is that? The question, why that is happening? So let's say the grid system is having a problem and there is a maintenance happening on that system. So we need to switch off the power in order to let people to work on the system and resolve the problem on the system. So if I keep your system running, that means the grid system power is shut down. However, your system is still generating electricity and sending it to the grid. That means I did not shut down the system. That means there is a power still going to the grid. Now it's a safety issue for the people working on the system and maintaining the system when you still generating your power and sending it to the grid, because people they will get injured. So it's a safety issue. So how we are doing this? So in this way, when the system is shut down, your solar energy will send the electricity to the system, but the system here doesn't allow that electricity to move to the grid and come back to you. So your system will be shut down the moment the grid system is shut down. So the second disadvantage of this system is the size of the system, which is imposed by the government or by the utility company. So they're gonna go to limit the power you are generating from your system, and they're gonna go to put stopper for that. Maybe they don't want you to start generate electricity and sell it to the people because this is now affecting them. All right, the third way of making your own solar system is the hybrid solar system. The hybrid solar system is the combination of on-grid and off-grid. So in this system, you're gonna go to have batteries and you're gonna go to have your system connected to the grid. So this is the most powerful system because it's having batteries connected to the system. So you fill your battery, then you use the electricity for your load at home, then you store the remaining extra power on the grid. So when the electricity shut down from the grid, then your system will stop sending electricity to the grid and your system will start to operate your loads from your battery. So in this system also you can have the net metering system or the smart metering system, which is two ways metering system, whatever you have given to the grid and whatever you have taken from the grid. And you have a smart system operating to tell you from where the electricity being used and stored. So the advantages of this system, the power available on all the condition. The disadvantages of this system is very expensive system, but it is the best system you can use in the world. So this is in general how does this solar system panel are working. And maybe in next videos we're gonna go to deep dive in the PV system and the construction of the PV panels, and we can explain how does these PV panels they are working and what is the construction of these PV panels. I hope that you have understood how does these three ways of storing the solar energy on the earth being working. This is Ahmed Aziz was speaking to you, and see you in next video.